kilometers. And, if they are moving at something just under 3 minutes per kilometer pace, then that will obviously give you a good idea when we get.
And also a history of fast times. And as we said, McConnon was only 18 when he won a couple of years later in 2:3:34. A bigger one, 2:4:34.
Be a typo. We shall see the two pacemakers, Kipchoge and Mateb, are there at the front. The field just broke up a little bit there as they went through a drink station. You see at the top of the picture the volunteers at one of the drink stations. Massive shout out for the volunteers. Speed they're moving at, and of course they go much, much faster than these able-bodied runners. Well, their slipstreaming benefit is absolutely massive. 2:58 for the 14th kilometre, Pat. Again, right on the money.
Well, I mean, that was a bit rapid, but it's certainly bringing them up through to this predicted sub-2:05 time, which, believe it or not, would not get these guys inside the top 20 fastest times here in Dubai over the last 20-odd years of the history of the marathon here in the Gulf state.
Those split times are fabulous. Look, the fastest kilometre was the 6th kilometre, 2:53, and the 10th kilometre as well, the same sort of time. I don't know if that's because there were slight downhill sections, and there are a few undulations on this highway that they're heading out now towards the northeastern tip of the course. There are one or two slight undulations, and if you've got a slight downhill, of course you're going to pick it up and run quicker, and if there's a slight uphill, the opposite. 2:53 to 3:01, like the 9th kilometre, that is quite some adjustment between 9 and 10 kilometres.
And that's a nice sort of look from the side at the different styles of these runners. Not everyone looking absolutely as smooth as Kipchoge there, the Kenyan pacemaker.
I know. One athlete dropping off the back. He's got a very hard day at the office. I can't see who it is at the moment, but he's about 20 or 30 metres off the back of this pack of about 15 or 16 men. 43 minutes on the clock. They should, at this tempo, be going through halfway pretty much on spot on, about 62:30.
I think that may have been Galetti, Tim. We saw that he was suffering a bit about 5-10 minutes ago. So I think he's maybe the guy that's dropped off the pace. Still predicted sub-2:05 there. As you see, and there are now a couple of people tailing off at the back there. I think we lost Galetti a bit. You can just see him left of screen there, gone out of picture. But there's a couple of other guys starting to suffer too.
Well, they went through 10K in 29:35. We had 15 minutes to that. We're talking about 44:35. So there'll be about 44:20, something like that, at 15K. And their target time at 15K was 44:26. So brilliant pacemaking still. Mateb, Kipchoge. But Kipchoge to the right there looks fabulously relaxed. He really does. Looks like he's just cruising along.
Gorgeous running style, isn't it?
Checking his watch. That pack is whittling down. Niakola, Belai, Asfor beginning to suffer. Asfor I talked about, the 20-year-old making his debut. Belai, well, just looking at his CV.
In the meantime, Tola looking very nice in the middle of that group. He mentioned his brother, much more successful, Tamirat, World Championship silver medalist, Olympic bronze, and twice a runner here in Dubai, Tamirat, who is brother out to hopefully to emulate him. He stayed in there. We lost our first pacemaker at 25K. Kipchoge hung in there with that beautiful stylish gait that he has, hung in there till 30, and the race is now on.
It is indeed, yes, and look at those splits, 2:56, the 29th, 2:59, and then a 3:10. Now, isn't that interesting? 3:10, that's probably the slowest split of the race, and I wonder if that is because Kipchoge is gone. I really hope not. I hope it's because there was a slight uphill section, but I fear it's because the pacemaker is not there. Abraha now just beginning to make his presence felt. Gebrselassie Abraha, the 30-year-old Ethiopian. He is the man who won the men's race in Ljubljana back in October. And trains in that big group with Tamarat Tola and Segae Mekonnen. It's great training partners. Miskenor also giving a great account of himself. He's only a 2:09 performer, Pat, and yet here on schedule for something around 2:05 with, what, about half an hour to go.
Well, you talked about the way that the new super shoes have really transformed distance running. Now, they do say, the sports scientists, that the new carbon plate shoes are worth a second per lap on the track, whether that be a mile or 5K or whatever. And that, of course, translates into much more substantial improvements on the road, up to 5 minutes, we think, and that would be just par for the course here. And you mentioned how good Tola looks, and well, he's a head higher, isn't he, than Miskenor, and he's really looking over his shoulder right now.
Well, yes, take your pick, because there's still 7 athletes in there. Pacemakers have gone, their job done. Kipchoge and Mateb, fabulous work from them. But Miskenor, well, his only victory was a win in Lodz in April 2016. That was a 2:13 win, 7 years ago. His half marathon best is only 61:17. He's gone through the half marathon today in 62:31, only some 45 seconds outside his PB. It does underline, I suppose, Pat, just how good conditions are here this morning. It's been really cool. I mean, we're sitting here. It's actually quite chilly just sitting here in our tracksuits, but if you're racing, these conditions are perfect.
Well, there you see 32K, and there's just 7 men left in this field. Miskenor, Tola, Aleph, but they, well, losing a couple off the back. We're almost down to 5.
Well, at 32K, the time I got at about 1:35 exactly. There it is, at 2:58 to get them to that point. But if it was 1:35 exactly at 32K, just checking my chart, that has them on schedule for, yeah, about 2:05:10. So pretty much spot on. And I know that race director, Peter Connaughton, who has nurtured this race for many, many years, 2 decades and more, will be watching with great interest and intensity and hoping that they can dip under 2:10, 2:05 here today. The world best, remember, for this year, 2:06:43. I think that's in severe...
The last 20, 30 years in the marathon and technical innovation with the new shoes, that, yeah, 2:05 would not get you in the world's top 50 fastest time nowadays over the years.
The sun is climbing, but it's still very cool. There is very high temperatures, 30 degrees plus predicted for Tuesday, Wednesday in a couple of days' time. But this last few days, the daytime temperature's been glorious, haven't they, Pat? It's been sort of 23, 25, very, very acceptable. And this morning, well, these athletes cannot complain about the temperatures being warm. And I know that there was some worry. Talking to Paula Radcliffe a few days ago, she was expecting it to be in the high 20s, perhaps even 30 degrees through these this race weekend. But that's not been the case. They've been very, very lucky.
Well, current temperature is, well, nowhere near 20 degrees at the moment. It's about 15 or 16 Celsius. So really ideal in the latter stages of the marathon with a very slight breeze. And that's why I suspect that these folks are looking so comfortable. That's the women's field that we're looking at there with Bultame and Sege, the Ethiopian male pacemakers, with a couple of men hanging in there from the men's popular race, using the women as a foil.
What's interesting, Pat, is that last kilometre was a 3:18. Now that is a significant acceleration. There have been 3:29s, 3:28s, 3:23s over the last few kilometres, and a 3:18. And Ruti Aga, perhaps the pre-race favourite, with a 2:18 from Berlin, albeit 5 years ago. Very much to the fore. That would suggest she's feeling comfortable. She's, remember, the athlete who's finished 3 times second in Berlin. She's run here just once in Dubai before. That was in 2017, and she had an absolute disaster by her standards. She was 13th in 2:46, her slowest time by over 10 minutes. So Ruti Aga has got a bit of a ghost to exercise here in a way.
Yeah, she has. We were talking to her earlier in the week, and she was looking so serious, and yeah, that was one of the things she said. She couldn't understand it, couldn't explain it, but she certainly looks as if she's going to put in a far better performance today.
Look at those splits, a 3:24 for the 27th kilometre, then a couple of 3:18s. Looks like they have picked it up in this men's field, which has gradually, steadily whittled down. We're now looking at, is that 6 now? Who's that off the back? Is that Alemu? Trying to see who that is, who's dropped off the back of that men's pack. Tola, the debutante, still looking really comfortable. Abdissa Tola, by far the tallest in this pack. He's what, 3 or 4 inches taller than anybody else in the pack, and it is Alemu, Deshasa Alemu, who's dropping away. He's a 2:08 performer, ran that in Hamburg in April last year when he finished in 12th place, but he's had enough as we get to the business end of this men's race.
Coming up to the 34th kilometre, so just over 8k to go, and well, just looking at the gait of these guys and the expressions, and you know, Tola casually looking at his watch. He certainly looks the most comfortable of those guys at the moment.
So, take your pick. There was a little bit of a grimace there from Abraha, Gebret Sadik Abraha, second to left. Is he hurting? I saw some the whites of his teeth. He's the man in his 23rd marathon, ran a personal best though in his last race in Ljubljana, 2:06. Has a daughter, married to Afera, and is running. A lot of these athletes remember running for the family back home. Said he was inspired by Kenenisa Bekele to get into running. But he's suffering now, and maybe it's at times like this when you're really having to dig deep and it's hurting that you do reach for inspiration. Think about the family back home or the training miles you put in, your training partners, wise words you may have heard.
Well, coming up to the 38th kilometre completed, and there are 7 men left in contention.
Kemal Hussein we saw in the background there, the Ethiopian. He's making his debut here. He's only got 1 race on record that we could find. That was when he was 8th in the Jeddah half marathon last year in 63:22. So he's had a heck of a run today. Let's hope he doesn't fall apart in this next 20 minutes or so. But Tola beginning to impose himself now, Patterson. He's growing in confidence.
Well, he's taken the initiative, isn't he? After a decline, there's a slight uphill now, and he really looks as if he's making an effort with what, 8 kilometres to run.
Well, it's interesting because he is the man who's making his debut, Tola. He ran his personal best half marathon when he won the Rome Ostia half marathon back in October 2021, 59:54. Now, okay, there are, you know, sub 1 hour half marathon times are pretty common these days.
And Dubai marathon.
Come on then, Pat, is that who you're putting money on? Is Tola your man?
Well, hopefully
you can buy the lemonade later.
Trying to emulate his brother, one of the world's leading marathoners over the last decade.
Well, Abraha is there, Miskenor is there as well. Tola, of course. And there it is, Abraha, Tola, Alu, and Miskenor is there as well. Haymanot Alu, the 2:11 performer. He is heading for a massive personal best here, I think. Nyakala is there, but he's 15 seconds down, Teresa Nyakala. He's only a 2:11 performer himself, so he's had a heck of a day as well. I mean, so many of these men are going to smash their personal bests on this course, which we think is probably going to be used only for this year. That's yet to be confirmed. It might well be returning to the old course, where the race has been staged for many, many years. But now, Miskenor just beginning to try and push there in that red vest. No quarter being given.
Well, we did say earlier that the race begins at 35k, and that's certainly proving the case here at the Dubai Marathon. We got you know, 15, 20 people in the group at halfway, and they were still there pretty much.
Be a pack of 6 or 7 women so tightly bunched. They really have run very, very conservatively today. The predicted race time, winning time, 2:22 at the moment, so they're about half an hour away from that. But who is going to push on? Ruti Aga almost constantly has been the one mostly to the fore. 1:41.25 at 30k.
Again, we're going to have to wait until the finishing stages to really see who's really going to emerge. I mean, Aga certainly has shown her intent. She's been the person right behind the pacemakers from the start.
Well, the Ethiopian record is 2:14.58 by Amane Bariso. That was set in Valencia back on the 4th of December, just a couple of months ago. That's certainly not under threat. The world record remains in the hands of Kenya, though, 2:14.04, of course, from the win in Chicago 4 years ago by Bridget Kosgei. That smashed the long-standing world record of Paula Radcliffe. There are those splits, look, and I thought around 28-29k we might be seeing the emerging of some aggressive running, but it's eased back a little bit, hasn't it? Look at that 31st kilometre, only 3:22, but you can go back to a little while ago, the 24th kilometre, 3:28. I mean, that is almost training tempo for some of these ladies.
And it's surprising that so many have dropped off it during the course of that fairly sedate pace.
Ruti Aga, by the way, this is her 11th marathon, but she's only run 2 in the last 3 years because of the pandemic. She was 4th in Chicago last October. That was her most recent race. She ran 2:21 there. She's still in fabulous shape, and as mentioned, she is the fastest in the field with that personal best of 2:18.34 from Berlin, her runner-up position in Berlin back in 2018. Running here with the confidence, I suppose, Pat, that for the majority of this field, she's got several minutes on them.
Well, as we're watching the women's marathons entering the latter stage of the field, we're going to go and have a look at
half lap, a clockwise half lap around Expo City, Dubai, on the outer ring road. Aliou hanging on to him stubbornly there. Haymanot Aliou, the 25-year-old, who's got a personal best of only 2:11. He's on schedule here to smash his personal best by about 5 minutes. Dubai delivers again here for some of these athletes with spectacular times. But what a debut from Tola, Pat. Look at the confidence with which he's racing it. And he's gone off course. Now, what is going on? How can he have gone off course that dramatically? Where's the lead bike for him?
There was a sharp turn that he should have known about. Oh. So suddenly our leader is back in 4th place, and he's got to do it all over again in this last 3K.
Why on earth did he not follow the camera bike? I suppose you're so focused, aren't you? You're in that zone of concentration, but that has cost him 30 meters at least, and a lot of hard effort to build that 30 meters. How frustrating.
Well, it really looked as if he was putting in his finishing surge over the last 4K, and I hope that when he lost about 20-30 meters, that he hasn't gone too quickly too soon, and and wasted a bit too much energy. But he's hanging in there, and I think he's just waiting to put in yet another surge.
Well, 40k, the next significant mark, that would be 1:58.30 if they can do it.
We're just going to have a look again, Tim, what went wrong here. Now, that for me was going to be a winning lead, and what it's done is turned out he's basically in second place behind Abraha.
And he's worked so hard for that, so he's got to recover now. He's got to sort of regain his senses, because clearly he was in such deep concentration that he just followed the road instead of following the lead bikes. There was a camera bike which clearly showed him where to go. And Tola now tucked in behind Abraha, Gebre Tzadik Abraha. He's the fellow, remember, who's in his 23rd marathon. He's had 5 wins, Abraha. He knows how to get it right. He's won in Marrakesh and Prague back in 2017, Guangzhou 2019, and then last year he had 2 wins in Lens in France and Ljubljana. So Abraha is not to be messed with, and Tola has now got far more of a fight on his hands. Tell you what, for a debut, Pat, this is a heck of a way to work hard for a win.
Well, that's really interesting, because it's been about a kilometre now since he made what looked to be, a surge towards victory, and he managed to mess that up by going off course. But he's now assumed the lead again. But Abraha he's not finished.
Far from it. No, He's going well. 1:59.06 at 40k. So that puts them on schedule for something just outside 2:05. Gillette and Alu both heading for big personal bests. Gillette there, the figure in third place, has a personal best of 2:07. He's going to smash that surely. And Alu, his personal best, he's never broken 2:11. He's heading for a personal best about 5 minutes. Now Tola, showing his class here for the second time he attacks, tries to break Abraha, making his debut, and what a debut. Comes from Sendefa, but lives in Addis Ababa. His coach, Gemeru Dedefa, will be watching this, there's no doubt about that. His training partners, Tamarat Tolo, Gie Adola, famous names in the world of marathon racing over the last half dozen years. They have taught him well. He's listened to what they've told him, and he surely now has broken Abraha at the second time of asking, Pat. He's had to go to the well again.
It certainly looks like it, doesn't it? Less than 2k to go now. It's definitely going to be an Ethiopian victory. We say the top four here are all Ethiopian. The debutant, following in the footsteps of Ayeli Abshira, the 21-year-old debutant who won back in 2012, and Tsegay McConnell, the 18-year-old debutant who won in 2014. So having made a real mess and going off course with about 5k to go, Tola has really dug it in now, and I don't think that those guys are going to catch him.
He's getting away, and in fact, the battle going on behind is a fascinating one. There's three of them there with a kilometre to run. Tola is away. He's a Manchester United fan, but he's having better form here today than Man U have been showing for much of this season. He loves his football. He loves Rome, Italy as well, by the way. He's got good taste, as this man who has set his personal best in the Rome Ostia half marathon. Not married, he's just 22 years old. His focus absolutely on his training and his racing and getting things right, and how right he's getting it here. This is one of the great debuts at the Dubai Marathon from Tola. And boy, has he had to apply himself, having gone wrong about 10 minutes ago.
Well, developments behind him, but I think we can safely say now that Tola is going to be another Ethiopian debutant to win this 22nd edition this time of the Dubai Marathon. But the race is actually for second and third place now.
It is. Derase Galete Ufatu, whose age we don't know. Nobody seems to know his age. He has a best of 2:07.30. That was when he came third in Frankfurt last October, just a few months ago. Made his debut back in 2017 when he ran a modest 2:17. Then he progressed to 2:12 in Beirut, then 2:10 in Nagano. He's made very steady progress down to his personal best of 2:07, but he's going to smash that today, even though it looks like he's going to lose out by some margin to this fabulous finishing surge from Amdisa Tola, the 22-year-old. He is pouring it on, and the gap behind him is beginning to become a yawning gap. Spectacular finishing form, Pat.
Well, we thought he might have messed up his finish when he went off course. It did take him about another kilometre to regather his forces and his confidence, because he always looked confident right throughout this event, and despite being a debutant. So we're going to get another first-time Ethiopian winner, and he looks absolutely terrific now in full flight.
Well, he does. He's tall, he moves really well. He's back on his haunches a little bit at the moment, but that's understandable. That's forgivable when you've been running this hard. And this is new territory for him. Don't let's forget, the predicted time 2:05.35. Well, they were hoping for a sub 2:05 clocking here today, but that matters not, because this young fella has endured a baptism of fire, and he's come out of it with flying colours. Abraha, back in, is he in second place or third place? Back in fourth now. Well, you know what? He spent himself battling Tola here.
Yes, yes.
Tola is done for him.
Yeah, but Tola went off course with barely a 5k to run when he was making what looked to be an early surge for victory. He settled back into that quartet and then made the decisive second move, and he's well away, and he's flying, and he's in the last 200 meters now.
Miskanor is in there in the top 4 as well, but Tola is undoubtedly going to take this title. The 22nd edition of the Dubai Marathon will go to Ethiopia yet again. They've won the vast majority of titles here. This young fella at the age of 22 has made a spectacular debut here today on the streets of Dubai. He's going to win here. It's going to be just outside 2:05. That is, though, very fast racing indeed. What a run from Abdissa Tola, the 22-year-old. He takes the title in Dubai, crosses the line in glorious isolation. He's worked for this over the last few kilometres. Its winning time unofficially 2:05.40. And Galete getting second place, just a few seconds down. Aliu in third place. And in fourth place, spent himself battling away against Tola 10 minutes ago, Abraha. He finishes in fourth place, just off the rostrum, but the time again for him, just outside 2:06. So the Dubai Marathon delivers once more. Mass fast times here. It is, of course, the fastest time in the world this year. That winning time, unofficially 2:05.40 for Abdissa Tola. One of the great debuts of recent years, 2:05.42 in fact. Look, the official winning time there coming up on the screen. Abdissa Tola Adair, to give him his full name. His training partners will be punching the air as well. They'll be watching this back in Addis, I'm sure, as will his coach, Gemadou Dedefa. He has learnt well.
Well, this looks like the fifth place finisher coming in now, Tim. Yet another Ethiopian. But victory to Tola, and a very welcome victory for a guy that fully deserved it. He made a move with 5k to go and looked as if he was going well away to the win there, but went off course and had to regather his forces, but went on to win anyway.
This is Kamal Hussein making his debut. We don't have his age. Kamal Hussein Gebi. He takes the final right-hand turn. He's going to be just outside 2:07, but what a run from him. That is some debut. And this is the fella who we only have one result from. That's a 63:22 half marathon clocking in the Jeddah half marathon in Saudi Arabia last year when he finished in 8th place. Well, as he come on in leaps and bounds, almost literally. Brilliant running from Kamal Hussein. Yes, another Ethiopian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far for the Ethiopians. The entire elite field was almost exclusively Ethiopians. And he's able to raise his game here. Now that's interesting. There's more to come from this fella too. If you can surge in the finishing straight like this, all on your own, not carrying any extra weight, is he? Wow, he's in fine form. I think he's finishing with quite a lot in the tank, is Kamal Hussein, as he crosses the line there in 2:08.10. Unofficially. That is another wonderful debut.
Well, just look at the contrast in styles there. I mean, you saw a guy sprinting as if he was at the end of a 5 kilometres race, and you're quite right. I think he's going to be a bit disappointed with himself, despite the excellent performance. That if he'd gone earlier, stayed with the pack, he could probably have done a minute faster.
And this is Bele coming home now, and it's been a good run from him as well. Anything under 2:10 is very good running, you have to say that.
And there's the popular 10k race going off as we you take a look at the exhaustion on the face of one of the male finishers there. And we're going to go to interview of Abdissa Tola, who was won in 2:05.42 on his debut.
Here with the men's winner today, Abdissa Tola, in his debut marathon. Abdissa, how did it feel out there, your very first marathon, to win in 2:05?
በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል። በጣም I'm happy.
I'm very happy, sir.
The pace was consistent throughout. Did that help you?
ፈጣን ሙሉውን ውድድሩ ፈጣን ነበር። እሱ አግዞሃል እንድታሸንፍ።
አዎ በጣም አግዞኛል። ከመጀመሪያ በጣም ተዘጋጅቻለሁ። ፈጣሪ ረድቶኛል። በጣም አመሰግናለሁ።
The consistent pace helped me a lot. I was very prepared and God helped me. And I'm very happy.
You had a big group and it wasn't clear until very close to the end when you made a break who was going to win today. And then you went off course. What happened?
በጣም ጠንካራ ተወዳዳሪዎች የነበሩበት ስብስብ ነበር። እስከ መጨረሻው አብራችሁ መታችሁ ነበር። መጨረሻ ላይ ግን ፈጥነው ወጣል። እንዴት ነበር?
አዎ በጣም ፔሱ በጣም ተመችቶኛል። ያው ጠንካራ አትሌቶች ነው ያሉት።
Tola of Ethiopia, another debutant from the East African country, who is 42, and there he is crossing the line, and it's the fastest time in the world so far this year.
And it equals, Pat, the 35th fastest time recorded in Dubai Marathon. That has not to disparage his performance. It was a fabulous win, a brilliant debut. But Dubai has this wonderful, rich heritage of fast times over the years. Many, many records have been set here. Strength in depth has been astonishing on many occasions. And plenty of athletes have run 2:04, 2:05 on this course. But 2:05.42 for a winning time is absolutely superb debut by this fella, and look how happy he is. He knew and you know what they say, Pat? They say that a positive...
He made his attempt to win with about 5k to go, made the mistake of going off course, and there's the top 10. Abdessa Tola Adera, 2:05.42, Deresa Galetti, 2:05.51, Haimanat Elu, 2:05.58, but Ethiopians all the way in this 22nd edition of the Dubai Marathon 2023.
Well, brilliant running for many places down through that result card of the top 10. Ethiopia all the way, 1 to 10. And the first 3 under 2:06. Indeed, prior to today, the fastest time in the world was 2:06.43. Well, the first 5 today getting inside that in Dubai. On this new course that was put upon the organisers just 10 days ago, they were told to try and find a new course to the south of the city that uses this Dubai Expo City, and they've done well. Now back to this women's race, which is still unfolding, Pat, and it has broken up at last.
And it looks like Diva is the woman after Ruti Aga looked as if she might be the potential winner. She's now back in third, but it's Diva who is making a claim to victory here in the latter stages.
Is that Ruti Aga back in second, actually, I think, isn't it? Yeah, Aga in second place. She's got a battle on her hands here as Dira Dida in only her 4th marathon, and the 2 of the 3 so far have been in Dubai prior to today. So this is a 3rd appearance in Dubai. Set her personal best here in 2018 with 2:21. Don't know if she's on schedule to break that 40k, 2:14.05. So add, say, 7 minutes on top of that, maybe a little bit more. She's going to be very close to her personal best, Dira Dida.
And I think they're going to be quite a bit faster than the potential victory time that they were showing earlier in the race. So it's certainly sped up in the latter stages of this women's race.
Yeah, no, absolutely it has, as we expected. She's a great cross-country runner. She was second in the world cross-country back in 2019 in Aarhus, Denmark. She lost by just 2 seconds to Helen Obiri. And I always think that many great cross-country runners can turn into fabulous marathon runners, but to a degree there's a similar mental attitude required. This is her first international competition, though, for 3 years because of the pandemic. And Dira Dida has waited for this day. She hasn't got the race won yet, though. Is Aga beginning to close, Pat, there in second place?
Well, I was just wondering, really, if Dida is getting the advantage of running with the pacemaker, and Aga wasn't, but Aga certainly looks as if she's making a comeback here.
Well, there's the 5k splits, as you can see, those different sections. 16:01, by far the quickest 5k between 36 and 40k. You can see how slow it got in the first 5k, 17:07, and then between 21 and 25k, 17:02. There were some undulations out there in the middle of the race, admittedly, but 16:01, that is a huge acceleration for this section of the race. And that is what has dragged her clear, Dira Dida, along with Ruti Aga. Now, if you were to be able to maintain 16:01 tempo, you'd be down there around 2:10 place or something like that. I mean, that is super fast running by these ladies in the last 5K.
Well, look at this, projected time of 2:21.26 now, and it has been 2:23 for virtually the whole of the race. So a 3:07 kilometre just now, so they've really picked up the pace here. But the victory for Dia isn't absolutely certain yet. Aga is still hanging in there.
Absolutely right, and of course the prize money is spectacular. The difference between first and second, let me tell you, $80,000 for first. Pat, it's cut in half if you're second, so that matters. This battle for the women's title is of financial significance as well. $20,000 for third, by the way. It goes 80, 40, 20, 10. It's cut in half with each drop in position. But Dida hasn't got this in the bag, although Aga just then looked over her shoulder. Now that was telling. In second place, their topper picture with a kilometre to go. She had a look over her shoulder, which suggests to me she's redlining.
She does look as if she's given up the chase at this point. And the camera foreshortening, she's a good 30, 40, 50 metres behind now. I think Dida is on her way to victory and emulate her compatriot Abdissa Tola, who won the men's race earlier.
Well, not only emulating her compatriot winning the men's race, but she's the wife of Tamirat Tola, who won here in 2017 in 2:04.11. He was actually third here in 2018 as well, but it's going to be a family double if she secures this win here today. She was fifth in Dubai in 2020. That was after seventh in Dubai in 2018. Well, at the third time of asking, and only her fourth marathon, her third time in Dubai, she could well be heading for the title here. It's not secured just yet. She has great track pedigree though. She's great on all surfaces. I said she was second in the world cross country 4 years ago. She's run 14:42 for 5,000, 30:51 for 10,000. Those are top draw times on the track. And this Manchester City Football Club fan, who's a big fan of Germany as a nation, by the way, is producing the goods here today in spectacular fashion as well. She's had to battle with that threat from Aga from behind, Pat, but I just get the feeling that she's got the win in the bag.
Well, she's well into the last kilometre now, about 500-600 metres left to run, and she's well away from Aga. Still looks good, you know, still running very confidently, but you know, she is going to be second, and we're just watching Aga there in second place. Dida is away to victory, and we're shortly going to be seeing her coming up the finishing straight to win this 22nd edition of the Dubai International Marathon.
Well, there's only 2:19 on the clock, look, less than 2:19 and a half, and she's not far from the finish now. There has been, well, it will have been a massive negative split, a much quicker second half to this marathon than the first half. Remember, they went through halfway in 71:36. That would have brought them home outside 2:23. Well, Dida here, who is the complete runner, great on the track, great on the country, and now a winner on the roads. This will be her first win in a marathon. She was fifth in Frankfurt in 2018 in 2:22. But in her first major international competition in over 3 years, she has been hungry for this, chomping at the bit for this, ready to work hard for this win, and she has judged it right. It was a tactical race by these women. Aga in the background has not given up yet, although another little glance over her shoulder is telling. But Dida has got the tactics right here today. Is this Yerga? Is she back in the third place? We think. The gaps, though, fairly significant in this women's race over the latter stages. She has a daughter, Fernand Tola, who she is racing for here today, and her husband, Tamirat, will be supporting her here and cheering her all the way. Originally from RC, she's lives in Addis and coached by Gemedu Dedefo, who's had a wonderful day, one of a big training group. And at the age of 26, in her fourth marathon, she's had to be patient, but she's produced the goods as she pushes towards the line now. Dida of Ethiopia will make it an Ethiopian double, and look at the time, crosses the line there unofficially in 2:21.09. I got it, but that'll come up officially very shortly. But that gives her a very, very high degree of respectability to this winning time, Pat, in what was a tactical race. And at one point, we thought they were going to finish outside 2:23. Aga there, what, 10 seconds down?
Oh,
Something like that.
easily 10 seconds. That's very interesting. It's a negative split. That's to say Dida has run the second half of the race well over a minute faster than the first half. And that's what took her away to victory over Aga, who did look for a long time as if she were going to win.
I think her second half has actually been something like 69:30 down in that sort of region. Dida. Well, she's still full of running. Jogging there to celebrate. You don't see that too often. And yet again, the winning athletes wrapped in that Ethiopian banner. It's a common sight these days.
So the two Ethiopian winners embracing in the national flag, and it is the third place is Geleta.
Third place was Geleta, not Yega. Shura Kitata coming home for this is Meseret Kitata. Her best was 2:27. Well, she will have smashed that by a big chunk as well in her 11th marathon. Must feel like a home fixture, Pat. Well, that's a board.
So. A lot of Ethiopian guest workers here in Dubai, and they always put on a great performance in the finishing stands for their athletes. We had top 10 men all from Ethiopia, and it's going to be a pretty similar situation in the women's race as Kitata is coming through to finish her race.
She's fabulously consistent. She's finished in the top 6 in 9 of her 10 marathons, and I think this will be top 6 in 10 of her 11 marathons, including a second in Ottawa and Beijing back in 2014, 4th in Vienna and Haifa in 2016, only 18th in Dubai back in 2015. Well, she's laid that ghost to rest. That was with a 2:34 performance. She has run some 10 minutes quicker than that today and more. Time on the clock still inside 2:24. Brilliant run from Meseret Kitatu, even if she didn't make the rostrum.
Okay, well, we're going to be talking to Dera Dida, the winner of the women's edition of this She's going to be, and here she is, coming up to secure that victory. Dera Dida of Ethiopia.